everything just because I picked Saints. But to be quite honest, I mean,
real good in-depth thinking we've got here. You can see why we're pundits, not fans. Oh wait,
in-depth analysis of the additions of all the players and etc. I just picked Saints because of the Saints. But to be honest, last year's final was so ridiculously, stupidly close. I mean, you couldn't get a fag paper between the two sides. I'm not sure Saints are that much stronger than we were last year. I mean, we've added some guys who are still a little unknown, and we've only had one run out so far. But we've lost some important guys. You know, people like Zebediah and James Graham. You know, did a huge job for us last year. And it's not clear to me that we will be stronger. I think Wigan probably will be stronger this year. I think Bateman adds a huge amount to what was already a very good, back three. So I think they're probably the two standout sides. It wouldn't surprise me if we fell under some more competition than that, because it always feels like you choose the sides that were good last year that are good that will be good again this year. But
I think this time around though, it's totally fair, isn't it? When you look back to that match, and think what two other Super League sides of the last 15 years could have played at that intensity for 80 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that many of the great sides had that great a performance in terms of the intensity and consistency of the intensity that Wigan and Saints put up in that match. And so that's why we're all looking at those two, and that's why they're clearly streets ahead of the rest when it comes to who people think are going to win the grand final. Let's move on to the Man of Steel. Of course, the Steve Prescott Man of Steel was won last year by a player from well outside the top performing sides. Paul McShane being the standout performer for Castleford, earned him the points and the recognition, through his performances to get that award. So let's see what people think this year. In third place in the voting is Huddersfield Giants' Aidan Caesar. Of course, was one of the front runners last year as well. He got 16% of the vote. Second place, and I think this one people maybe need to temper their expectations on, but Bevan French got 20% of the vote. He might miss 20% of the season. So I'm not sure on that one. But the most votes for Man of Steel from the fan vote in public is John Bateman with 33% of the vote. So the prodigal son returning from Canberra. Before we go through our picks, guys, I'm just going to run through some of the other names that got votes. And feel free to laugh as loudly as you want to at some of these.
I just wanted to know, Mark, how many accounts you had to set up to get 33% of the votes for Bateman.
Oh, honestly, I was surprised how many votes kept coming through for him. But, yeah, spoiler, I voted for him, but that was just because I couldn't think of a solid reason to vote for any of the others above him, rather than any kind of bias there. Because if I was doing it on just bias alone, then my Liam Farrell would have got my vote, wouldn't he? But Adam Quinlan, let's see if his biscuity ways can last enough games to win enough Man of Steel points to be in the reckoning. Ben Garcia, the new captain of the Catalans Dragons. Jackson Hastings. Jimmy Kindhorst, who I'm not even sure will get a game. Johnny Lomax, that's a solid vote there. Your new guy at Hull, Sarah, Josh Reynolds, got a vote. Lachlan Coote, who I was tossing up between Bateman and Coote for my choice. Someone went Mark Snide. Niall Evalds, of course, Fatboy Rob went for Niall Evalds, and I don't think it's a terrible shout. Zane Tetevano got a couple of votes, and Jake Wardle also got a vote from one of the Huddersfield fans there.
I'll tell you what, Reynolds could be a good outside shout because he'll be a good player in a poor side. So he's that one that tends to do well under this voting system.
There you go. Yeah. Well, none of us went for Reynolds. David, do you want to give your explanation as to why you didn't pick anyone to win the Man of Steel this year?
I think it's because I think it is really, really hard to do. If I was going to pick the best player in the league, then I think there is a good shout for John Bateman. I think there's a good shout for Coote or Lomax. There's a good shout for there's a good shout for a number of other Saints and Wigan players. I think the format means that it's very difficult for teams that are stacked with lots of good players to have their player win it, because they have different players being man of the match every week. So, that's my view anyway. I think someone like Aidan Caesar, someone like Reynolds, have got a good chance, because they're much more likely to be the top player in a side. I don't think it's a side that's poor, but it's a side that's maybe a top 6 side rather than necessarily the top 1 or 2.
Yeah, a side with 1 or 2 stars with a solid supporting cast rather than a side of stars.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, does that explain your choice for Aidan Caesar then?
Pretty much, yeah. And I think we still have too many playmakers that'll get votes, that Reynolds won't be the only one getting them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Your spine it's sometimes hard to distinguish between your spine who is the star player.
I think, especially now with Connor at fullback, you've got Connor, you've got Sneed, you've got Reynolds, and then if Kate is playing loose forward, I think there's too many players there for it to bounce between.
So Alan, Tim, and myself, we all went with John Bateman. So Alan, obviously, you've got a foot in the Bateman camp, being a Bradford supporter, where he came through back in those days where he used to have that little weird ponytail thing and that rat tail or whatever it was called.
Yeah, I suppose my thought behind this is that I'd like to first thing first, I'd like to change my vote, but I'm not going to. I think
it's not going to change the outcome. He won by more than one vote.
Bateman will be the best player in the league next year, in my opinion. But I don't think he'll win the Man of Steel for the same reasons that David gave. Unfortunately, it might even be it'll be somebody like McShane again, because the system is as we said, unfairly biased towards outstanding players in mediocre teams. So I would be very confident to say that no Saints or Wigan player will win on that basis, because they're surrounded by quality players.
Yeah, well, especially with last year, we saw you could be in a losing side, a side that loses more games than it wins, and win the Man of Steel, which I always thought was the equaliser of this system, was that, yeah, you could be a standout player in an average side, but you have to be winning games as well to get top points. But that didn't come to pass last year.
No.
Tim, you've gone for Bateman as well.
Yeah, I think. I thought he's the outstanding player in the league. He's gonna be head and shoulders above the rest. What I've just been discovering as I've been thinking, sat here, is of course he's wearing the cursed shirt. He's wearing a number 13 at Wigan. That means he's only going to play 30%, 40% of the games. Come back for the big occasions, but be out week to week.
Yeah, I feel like a 27-year-old John Bateman might be a bit different to a 35-year-old Sean O'Loughlin in that stake, but we'll see. I mean, there's no Toronto to poke him in the eye and take out some indescribable amount of the season from that injury, which unfortunately befell Sean O'Loughlin last year. But yeah, do you know, I've gone Bateman too, and like you guys have just said, is the standout player in the league, because one thing we know about John Bateman is he's world class. He was one of the best players in the NRL competition. So for him to be in our competition again, we shouldn't, overstate how big that is. It's far, far bigger than having Greg Inglis, having not played for 2 years, coming into the competition, or Kyle Eastman, having not played Rugby League for 10 years, coming back into the competition. We're bringing in one of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
So that's why I've gone for him.
No, I mean, I think that's absolutely right. I think he is one of the best players in the world, and what's already, as I say, a really good back three. So I expect him to have a fantastic season. But the voting system is just going to be very difficult for him to win when you've got people like Liam Farrell getting man of the match votes every week.
One of the names that I'm surprised didn't get any votes, guys, I'd be interested for your take on it, is Sam Tompkins, because I think he is the standout in what could be an average Catalan side. Mm-hmm. And as long as he doesn't get himself suspended like he did a couple of times last year, I honestly think he'd be a front runner. I don't know what anyone else thinks on that.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout, is it? He's like you say, he's going to be a star in a side without many stars who are going to be fairly bobbing along mid-table. Yeah, it's not a bad shout.
Okay, let's move into the Championship now and see who the fans voted to pick as the winner for the Championship this year. In third place with 17% of the vote is the ultra nomadic London Broncos. Not only have they moved around so many times in their history, but now they're looking at playing at several venues probably in the same season. Featherstone Rovers have got 22% of the vote for the second most popular pick, and it is the French side Toulouse Olympique with 40% of the vote that most people think will win the Championship this year. I would give a nod that Batley, Bradford, Halifax and York all got votes as well. I'm assuming Batley, Bradford and Halifax got votes from Batley, Bradford and Halifax fans, but we'll see. The rest didn't get any votes, so there was only half of the sides that any of our fans, listeners thought could get a gig here. But we'll start with the man who's got the most interest in the Championship out of us this year, and the man who's gone for Toulouse, Alan. So why do you think the French side will be the champs?
I may be blinkered in my support of Bradford, but I'm not stupid. They are Toulouse are by far, in terms of on paper, and if you look at the games they played last year, admittedly not many, they were the best team, or they were looking like the best team last year. In terms of their squad depth, they seem to have added, they've retained some really key players as well. I can't see beyond Toulouse this year. I just can't see any kind of at their level.
Sarah, you went for York.
Yeah, I think I'm probably slightly biased having seen them play last week. I think that a lot will depend on injuries for them, but I think that they've got a really strong core team. I think they've got some really, really good signings in there.
Yeah, super experienced, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a bit Dad's Army though, isn't it? That's the danger.
It is a bit Dad's Army, but then, what are they playing against?
But also they have got some good young players in there as well that they've picked up from across the game. So they've got a bit more of a balance, although they have got that ageing core.
So Tim, you've gone for York as well, haven't you? So we've got both sides of Hull agreeing that York are the team to win the Championship.
Yeah, I mean it's I think that having that new stadium is going to give them quite a bit of a lift as well. They're going to have a little bit of a bounce from that. I think that the experience they've got in that team is in abundant, and I think they've got, like I've said, some young, quick players, particularly in the back line, that they could do some damage.
We don't put too much into pre-season, but Sarah, you've seen a pre-season game that they played. What did that new stadium look like on the TV, and does it look like it could inspire some good performances out of that home side?
It looks like a really nice little stadium. Definitely sad that we couldn't be there. It looked to be a nice size. I'm not totally sure what the capacity is of it.
18, I think.
Is it? Yeah,
I think is it? Am I right in thinking they've got plans to expand it to that as the maximum capacity, but at the moment it's below that. So I can't remember. I mean, I feel like I've been waiting for this stadium to open for 2 seasons. So
yeah, no, it looked like a really smart, stadium of that size, like totally more than they will need at the minute, but yeah, I think it could be really good, like to kick on the local game in York and things like that as well.
Good stuff. Talking from a team who've definitely got a new stadium to a team who might be moving into a new stadium, David, for your pick.
Yeah, I mean, I London have obviously been in